I still remember the exact weight of those words, the way they hung in the air between us, changing everything I thought I knew about loyalty, about friendship, about the person I believed I was. Some moments divide your life into before and after. That night in my car, with rain drumming against the windshield and her perfume filling the space where my wife should have been, that was mine. My name is Daniel. I'm 34, work in corporate finance, and I've been married to Rebecca for 7 years. 7 years that had slowly turned from passionate to practical, from electric to efficient. We weren't fighting. We weren't even really arguing. We had just faded, like a photograph left too long in the sun. Sarah had been Rebecca's best friend since college. 12 years of shared secrets, late-night phone calls, and the kind of intimacy that sometimes made me feel like the outsider in my own marriage. She was different from Rebecca in almost every way. Where my wife was structured and controlled, Sarah was spontaneous. Where Rebecca measured every word, Sarah spoke from somewhere deeper, more honest. She was beautiful, but not in the way magazines tell you to notice. It was the way she listened, the way her eyes held yours a second longer than comfortable, the way she could sit in silence without needing to fill it. I had never let myself think about her that way. Not consciously. She was Rebecca's friend. That was the wall, and I never questioned it. Until that Friday night. Rebecca had organized one of her dinner parties. Everything perfectly planned, perfectly executed. Sarah came alone, her recent breakup still fresh enough that she smiled a little too brightly, laughed a little too quickly. I noticed because I recognized it. That performance of being okay. The evening went as these things always did. Wine, conversation, the careful dance of social pleasantries. Rebecca was in her element, orchestrating the flow of discussion like a conductor. I play my part, the supportive husband, the charming host. Sarah was quiet that night, quieter than usual. Around 11, people started leaving. Sarah had taken an Uber, and Rebecca immediately volunteered me to drive her home. You don't mind, do you? It wasn't really a question. It was the kind of thing married people do, assign each other tasks without consultation. Of course not, I said. Sarah protested weakly, but Rebecca was already clearing plates, already moving on to the next task. So Sarah grabbed her jacket and I grabbed my keys, and just like that, we were alone. The night air was cool. October rain had started during dinner, light but steady. I opened the car door for her, a habit from another era that Rebecca had long stopped noticing. Sarah smiled, a real one this time, and slid into the passenger seat. For the first few minutes, we drove in comfortable silence. The windshield wipers kept rhythm with the radio, some late-night jazz program playing low. The streets were nearly empty, rain-slicked and reflecting streetlights in long amber streaks. "You okay?" I asked. She looked over at me, surprised. "Why wouldn't I be? You were quiet tonight." She turned back to the window. "Just tired, I guess." But I could hear something else in her voice. Something she wasn't saying. "The breakup?" I ventured. A soft laugh. That obvious? Only to someone paying attention. She went quiet again, but it was a different kind of quiet now. Thoughtful. Her fingers traced patterns on the window, following raindrops as they raced down the glass. "Can I ask you something?" she said finally. "Sure. Do you ever feel like you're living someone else's life?" The question caught me off guard. I glanced over at her, but she was still watching the rain. "What do you mean?" "I mean," she paused, searching for words. "I mean, do you ever wake up and wonder how you got here? Like you made all these logical decisions, checked all the right boxes, but somewhere along the way you lost the thread of who you actually are?" I didn't answer right away. Couldn't. Because yes. God, yes, I knew exactly what she meant. "Sorry," she said quickly. "That was heavy. Forget every day," I said quietly. She turned to look at me then. Really look at me. And something shifted in the car. Some invisible line that had always been there suddenly felt thinner. "Rebecca doesn't know, does she?" Sarah said. "That you feel that way. We don't really talk about things like that anymore." "When did you stop?" I thought about it. Try to pinpoint the exact moment when we'd stop being lovers and become roommates. I don't think it was a moment. I think it was 1,000 small moments. 1,000 conversations we didn't have. Sarah nodded slowly. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. We were getting close to her apartment. I could see her building up ahead, its familiar brick facade. I should have felt relieved, should have been ready for this drive to end. Instead, I felt something close to panic. At a red light, I looked over at her. She was already watching me. The streetlight cast half her face in shadow, half in amber light. Her eyes were dark, unreadable. "Daniel," she said softly. "Yeah, don't take me home." My heart stopped. Actually stopped. "What?" "Take me somewhere private." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Please, I don't want to be alone tonight. And I don't think you want to go home either." The light turned green. Cars behind us started honking. But I couldn't move. Couldn't think. Everything I believed about myself was screaming at me to say no. To take her home, drive back to my wife, pretend this conversation never happened. But there was another voice too. Quieter. Deeper. The voice of the man I used to be before I learned to ignore myself. "Where?" I heard myself say. She didn't answer with words. Just pointed ahead, away from her apartment. Away from my house. Away from a life we were both supposed to be living. I drove. We ended up at a 24-hour diner on the edge of town. The kind of place that exists outside of time, with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tastes like burnt memories. There were maybe 3 other people inside. A trucker at the counter. An elderly couple in the corner. A waitress who looked like she'd seen everything and judged none of it. We slid into a booth in the back. The fluorescent lights were harsh after the intimacy of the car, but somehow that made it feel safer. More real. A waitress brought coffee without asking. We didn't order food. "I shouldn't have said that," Sarah started, but I cut her off. "Why did you?" She wrapped both hands around her mug, staring into the black liquid like it held answers. "Because I'm tired of pretending." "Pretending what?" "That I don't feel this." She looked up at me. "Whatever this is." My throat felt tight. "Sarah, I know. Believe me, I know. You're married to my best friend. This is every kind of wrong. But sitting in that car with you, talking to you the way I've wanted to talk to someone for years, I couldn't let you just drop me off and drive away. I couldn't. I should have left. Should have thrown money on the table and walked out. Called Rebecca. Confessed everything. Begged forgiveness for a sin I hadn't even committed yet. But I didn't. How long? I asked instead. She knew what I meant. 2 years. Maybe 3. It's not something I let myself think about. You were off limits. You've always been off limits. But now I'm tired of following rules that are making everyone miserable. She leaned forward. "Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you're happy with Rebecca. Tell me that what we just talked about in the car was just small talk. Tell me, and I'll drop it. We'll never speak of this again." I couldn't. The words wouldn't come. "I love my wife," I said instead. "I know you do. That's what makes this so fucking complicated." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You think I wanted this? You think I wanted to fall for my best friend's husband? The one person in the world I absolutely cannot have. Then why are we here? Because maybe love isn't enough." Her voice cracked. "Maybe loving someone and being able to live with them are 2 different things. And maybe we both deserve to feel alive again, even if it's just for one night." The diner suddenly felt too small, too bright, too real. I thought about Rebecca, about the life we'd built together, the house, the routines, the comfortable silence that had replaced all the words we used to share. I thought about the man I saw in the mirror every morning, the one who'd learned to be satisfied with satisfaction. And I thought about Sarah, about the way she looked at me like I was someone worth seeing, about the way my heart had been racing since the moment she said those words in the car. "I can't do this," I whispered. She nodded, her eyes filling with tears. "I know," but neither of us moved. We sat there for 2 hours, talking, really talking, about dreams we'd abandoned, about the people we'd been before we learned to be who we were supposed to be, about the unbearable weight of living a life that looked perfect from the outside. She told me about her childhood, about a father who never saw her. I told her about the promotion I'd turned down because Rebecca wanted to stay in this city. We talked about music and movies and all the tiny ways we'd each gone numb. And somewhere in that conversation, our hands found each other across the table. It wasn't sexual. Not exactly. It was something deeper than that. It was recognition. Two people who'd been pretending for so long that they'd almost forgotten what real felt like. When we finally left the diner, the rain had stopped. The sky was that strange purple gray that comes just before dawn. We sat in the car in the parking lot, neither of us ready to acknowledge what came next. "I should take you home," I said. "Yeah, but I didn't start the car." "Daniel," she said, "nothing has to happen. Nothing physical. But I need you to know something." "What?" "Tonight changed me. This conversation changed me. And I can't unknow what I know now. Which is that you're not happy. That I'm not happy. And that somewhere in this fucked up world, there might be a version of our lives where we could be." I closed my eyes. "Sarah, I'm not asking you to leave her. I'm not asking you for anything. I just needed you to know that I see you. The real you. Not the one who shows up to dinner parties and makes small talk. The one who still dreams. The one who's drowning but won't let himself reach for the surface." She leaned over and kissed my cheek. Just once. Soft and final. Then she got out of the car and walked toward her building without looking back. I sat there for 20 minutes after she disappeared inside, watching the sky lighten, feeling like I'd been cracked open. When I finally drove home, Rebecca was already awake. She was in the kitchen, making coffee, still in her robe. "You were gone a while," she said, not looking up from her phone. "Hit some traffic. That was it." She didn't ask where I'd been. Didn't wonder why it took 4 hours to drive Sarah 15 minutes across town. Didn't notice the way my hands were shaking. And maybe that was the saddest part of all. The weeks that followed were the hardest in my life. Sarah, and I didn't speak. Didn't text. She stopped coming to our house. Rebecca noticed, but didn't push. She was used to friendships having their cycles. But I couldn't stop thinking about that night. About the weight of her hand in mine. About the way she'd looked at me in the diner like I was someone worth saving. I started going to therapy. Didn't tell Rebecca. Just started. Because I realized that night in the car had shown me something I couldn't unsee. I'd been living half a life. Playing a role. I didn't know if I could do it anymore. One night, 3 months later, I came home and found Rebecca sitting at the kitchen table. She looked up when I walked in, and there was something in her eyes I hadn't seen in years. "Fear. We need to talk," she said. And we did. Really talked. For the first time in years. About the distance between us. About the resentment. About all the things we'd been too polite to say. It wasn't dramatic. There was no screaming. No throwing plats. Just two people finally admitting that they'd grown into different people than the ones who'd gotten married 7 years ago. We separated 6 months later. Divorced a year after that. It was sad and painful and necessary. And Sarah? I never saw her again. She moved to Portland about a month after our talk. Got a job at a gallery. Started over. Rebecca told me once, casual and cold, like it didn't matter. Like that night had never happened. But it did happen. And it mattered more than almost anything else in my life. Because Sarah was right. That conversation changed me. It cracked open the shell I'd been living in and let in just enough light to see how dark it had become. I'm not with her. We don't have some fairy tale ending where we found each other after our separate divorces and rode off into the sunset. Real life doesn't work like that. But sometimes I think about her. Wonder if she's happy. Wonder if she ever thinks about that night in the diner when two lost people found each other for just a few hours. And I hope she is. Happy, I mean, because she taught me something I desperately needed to learn. That feeling alive is worth the risk. That honesty, even painful honesty, is better than comfortable numbness. That sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit that the life you're living isn't the one you want. I don't regret that night. I regret that it took me so long to hear what she was really saying. What I was really saying, that we all deserve to be seen, really seen, and that sometimes the people who see us clearest are the ones we can never have. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Thanks.